Hey guys, what's up? I want to say hi to all my students that I'm teaching right now. And I know you're working very hard on your tutorial assignment, which is a tutorial about creating a document class and why you would want to do that. So I thought maybe I could just put something together here to help out in that regard. And I know we've talked about this in class a lot, but hopefully this will kind of just help you organize your thoughts a little bit. Okay, so let's get into Flash here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by creating a new Flash file. So nothing new there. Now, for people who are new to working inside of Flash and who have started creating a little bit of code, usually that code will start off with things like stops on keyframes and go to and play on keyframes, or maybe attached directly to movie clips. And there's lots of different places that you can put your code inside of Flash. Now, that is pretty good in terms of animation. And originally, Flash was designed as strictly an animation tool, so people kind of got used to doing it that way. But as it started being used for things like, sites and applications and, these very complex type of things that you see now, we needed a new method. Now, the reason why we need a new method is because that same thing, that ease of sticking code anywhere inside of Flash, well, as the thing starts to grow in complexity, that actually comes to be a big problem for you. What do we mean by that? Well, think of it, you can kind of think of it this way. Like, if you're reading a book, like this book that I have here from Colin Mook, which is called Essential Action Script 3, and by the way, I recommend that you do read this book because it's probably the best one that you can find on the subject. So if I'm reading through this book and I want to remember something or keep track of something inside of here, what I might do is I might take a card and I would stick it inside of the book, just like that. So now if I go away and I come back, I can easily flip open to where I was. This is like a little piece of data really that's keeping track of something for me. And if the book is fairly thick, like this one is, then I might have cards in a few different places, and just like that. And what I might do is I might start writing little notes on these cards so that when I flip into the book and open it up, I can see a little bit of information about what I was doing. Now this solution works really good if you have one book. It's portable, stays with the book. But if I have several books, this could start to get complicated. And let's say for instance that I have a whole library of books. That's not unlike what we have when we're creating a more complex type of application. Well, keeping track of things inside of the books at that point becomes crazy. That's why libraries don't do it. So in a library, what they do is they externalize these things. So they take these cards out of here, and instead they set up a system where the book has some kind of tag or number on it that associates it with those cards. That lets them keep it in, a whole box full of these cards in one place. And if you know of the Dewey Decimal System or any of the other systems that libraries use, you know that people can very easily go to this external place where they look up in the cards, find what they're looking for, and then they find the book that is linked to that. Keeping our code external to our Flash file is kind of like that. So that's what we're going to be setting up today, and you'll see that it's really not that difficult to do. And at the end of it, if you've never written a class file before, you're going to actually have a fully functional class file. And that's really the start of all object-oriented programming. So let's go ahead and get started here. I'm going to go into Flash, and we're going to take a quick look at the properties panel here. And one thing that you might not have used before if you haven't created a document class. So first of all, in the properties panel we see some of the usual things, like here's our our frames per second that says basically how fast the Flash file should run. Our size is there, the color of our stage, but we also see up here a field called class. We're going to be making use of that, so keep that in mind. Now, one of the major advantages that you have when you create your code outside of Flash is that you can make use of some much more powerful tools for coding. People who write code for a living generally find that writing it inside of the Flash IDE is very restrictive, and I have to agree, having done this for quite a while. I'm very, very reluctant to write any code inside of there because I've gotten used to these powerful tools that let you write code in so much better way. One of those tools that is free for use and downloadable is called Flash Develop, so I'll be using that one today. But you could also be using Eclipse, you could be using Flash Builder or Flex Builder that are based on Eclipse. One thing about Flash Develop is that it was originally made for PC only because it runs on the .NET platform, but if you're running Parallels or something like that on your Mac, you could still make use of it. But for the sake of example, I'm going to use Flash Develop today because you could use it and it's free, and that's great, and it's a really good tool actually. So let me just shrink down Flash here, and you get kind of an overview of what Flash Develop looks like. So when you are starting a new Flash Develop project, generally the first thing that you're going to do is go into the Project tab and create New Project. So first of all, I'm going to create a folder right here on the desktop. I'm going to say New Folder, and I will call it Document Example. There we go. So now we got just a nice empty folder here. Let me jump back into Flash, and I'm going to save this into that folder. So save as, and go to my desktop, go into Document Example. I'm just going to call it Project. It's not really too important what you name it. There we go. And now let's shrink Flash down again and go back into Flash Develop. We're about 50% of the way done at this point because we've got an FLA sitting in the folder. Now what we're going to do, as we mentioned, is create code that is external to the FLA file. So in the end, what's going to happen is all of our code is going to be in nicely labeled code files, and all of our binary assets like our JPEGs and WAV files and so forth are going to be inside of the FLA. So let's go ahead and set up a new project. I'm going to go Project, New Project, and you'll see you get a bunch of options inside of here. For the sake of your first example, I would suggest going with an empty project. As you get more advanced, you'll find that these other options here will actually create a lot of code for you and set up a lot of things for you very nicely. And that's why I was saying that these type of dedicated coding tools are generally much more powerful than Flash itself. But for this first example, let's just go with an empty project. Next thing we're going to do is give the project a name. Again, you can call it anything that you want. I'll just call it, Document Example. And then I'm going to browse to the folder where I saved my FLA. Right here. I'm going to hit OK.